back. Yay! I'm sleepy, but we're here. Yay! Excitement. Get your energy up. It's podcast time, everybody. Podcast time. Energy with the podcast time. The energy with the podcast. Okay. I might do my own recording of our intro song. It's just going to be me singing that.
Sounds good.
But I might want you to be some backup. I might need you to be like my choir, like my sassy.
Banner.
Yeah. Okay, so I will get started with something that you know not about, but I wish to get it off my chest.
Oh, off your chest. Have I offended you? Have I hurt you?
I want to talk about how you work out in the gym. No, Crimson Desert. I'm going to talk about it because it seems to be a rather fiery discourse online.
It's a very polarized opinion.
Polarizing,
base.
yes. The more I have played the game, and the more I have seen and actually been able to do things and gone through areas that other people have complained about or what they're talked about, I now have a very solid opinion that most of the people who don't like the game are Neanderthals who could not think their way out of a paper bag. I have watched the videos of them trying to figure out like a puzzle or to put something like a single item somewhere, and I was like, oh, maybe there's something wrong with the mechanics and then I do it and I get there and I figure it out first try. Not difficult. No problems. The game's very clear on what to do. It doesn't give you like the yellow. This is what they've talked about the yellow paint that like some games do, where they just paint it and then like just so much visual. It's impossible to miss. It's like you don't have to actually be focusing on what you're doing at all. It doesn't do that, but it does say next step. Take like one thing was like to light a arrow on fire, or it said shoot the vines with a flame arrow. You had in your stuff you would have regular arrows and a poison arrow this time, but there are braziers with fire. There is in fact a brazier with fire directly beside the vines that you have to shoot. So you walk up and you take the tip of your arrow and I put it down into the coal, the flame. Took it back out. It was on fire. So I said, oh, that must be. Now, I made sure and looked because I was like, well, let's make sure this works. It does. So I was like, okay. I held it, kind of walked over, shot it, boom. People were complaining that this was the most difficult thing. I watched it. They like swept the arrow like kind of over the area that the brazier was. They didn't like actually put it in the fire. They just kind of wiped it out. And they're like, this is, oh my God, the game is so clunky. And I was like, it's not that clunky. It's not. I will say the one place where the argument stands strong, okay, where people have a genuine, valid, is the mouse and keyboard controls. The game was made for controller, and so the controls are significantly better on. I think it's almost identical to Red Dead Redemption 2, which is funny watching people complain about even on controllers. I've seen people complain, and it's like, nobody complained about it on that game.
Red Dead is venerated as like the greatest
game.
It was
the Lord has come and blessed us.
Yeah.
You'd be like, oh, I gotta hold X to climb. I gotta tap A to run. It's like these are not new controls. It's really not that bad. The fighting's smooth. You do have to hold. That's the other thing. You have to hold certain combinations for. So like it's like LB plus Y is a move, and LB plus B is a move, and so there's different like button combinations, and it's not just light attack, heavy attack, or something like that. I mean, you can do it. I haven't been doing a whole lot of combos, but there are combos, right? And so that is the thing that people.
That's not like brand new or anything. A lot of games do have that system, though.
I'm telling you, man. Like, just watch the video. But see, you wouldn't know. The thing is, if you watch these videos, and this is what I was getting at first I was kind of on the, oh, well, it's just not for everybody. You know, some people don't like it. Some people like it. It may be more difficult because I was watching their videos when they were complaining about stuff, and I was like, oh, this looks tough. Until I got to some of this stuff, or I did it myself, and I was like, what? Like I did it first, then I watched the video of someone complaining about it, and I was like, I got through that first try. Like that wasn't even difficult, and that's where I'm genuinely like there are some things they could clean up about the game for sure, and they've even admitted like, oh yeah, we're going to try to clean up the controls.
I saw they posted a thing that was like, "Thank you for the varied feedback regarding the game. We intend to move forward, taking many of these things into consideration," or something. And it's like, okay, that's code for thank you for the constructive criticism. We're gonna do our best.
And I think they're probably, I don't know what they'll do. I don't know if they can do much on the controller, but I do think what I believe they're going to do is probably include a keybind editor to where you can just make it do what you want, right? Like you can put stuff in the way you want it to be put in. But I just, man, when I was going through, I was like, people are just dumb. It's not just that they're dumb, it's that they've been trained now to be impatient and have just zero problem solving. So you know how every time anybody in media like complains about what video games do to people's brains, they're like, oh, but here's these studies that show it improves problem solving and blah blah blah. I was like, I don't think that's the case for a lot of games anymore. I think they're so hold your hand that I'm watching, and these are not complicated puzzles, and I watch people and they're struggling, and it's like, because games no longer teach you, that didn't work. Let me figure out why that didn't work. Let me check and go through some options. like square did not go in circle hole. Maybe I should try other hole, or something like that. It was just, and I was like, because right now I'm probably 6-7 hours in, and I've been enjoying the game since hours. People are like, oh, you have to play 8 hours for it to get good. I'm like, no, you don't. It is very enjoyable. I'd say probably after about, it's functional right off the bat, but it's enjoyable after about 2 hours. You kind of get to start doing like all the various different activities and quests, and it kind of starts to blossom, and then it really blossoms after that, like after 8 hours. But it's still fun. It's still a very fun game. I think it's a fantastic game. I'm not sure. I do get it's probably not for everyone because it's not story heavy. So you know how a lot of people just want to play like story heavy games. I agree with that element of it. Like, it's kind of like, I don't think Elden Ring or Dark Souls is for everyone because not everybody is in it for the grind, But it is not like the way people complain as if the game itself is truly like broken and it's just not good. I genuinely think it's just people who don't want to admit that they're stupid. That's actually what it is. I think it's people who can't just be like, oh, my brain's been trained by just constant social media, constant like easy feedback games, easy feedback TV and movies, that I can't take a few seconds and go through a process of figuring out a problem. I can't rationally sit and look. Go ahead.
I think, unfortunately, with a lot of this, because the game came out and right off the bat, you had two camps forming from the get-go, right? Like there was not much room for middle ground. And so I think, whether they know it or not, people who are just kind of going with the flow of things, now we have to pick a camp, right?
Yeah.
Because it takes a bit of, you have to push back to take that middle ground stance, so they have to choose a camp.
Yeah.
And I think that the more easily defensible camp is the one of criticism and contempt for whatever it is, instead of the one that is defending it. Not that people don't take that stance, of course, but I think that generally you will face criticism yourself if you take that defensive stance of the game versus the one of criticism. I think everyone loves criticism a bit too much, especially online.
And I want to be clear, like, I started out trying to take the middle ground because I was like you. I know this always happens, so I was like, maybe it really is kind of rough, and I just haven't got there. But the more I played it, the more I was like, no, they're just like, I've experienced myself. I can tell that was not an actual problem. They just created it, or they're,
A number of things that I've seen about it that basically say, yeah, the start is pretty rough, but if you get through a certain amount of it, then it's more enjoyable and it fleshes out and it becomes decent. And I don't know what's true. I haven't played, but I've seen enough sources that say that to
the start
to reasonably trust that.
It's not horrible, but it is not particularly fun and engaging, right? Like, it's like the story starts. It kind of tries to gives you the most like basic, quick story plot, like this is why things are the way they are. You are part of the gray something or another. Can't even remember. The gray hounds, gray wolves, gray manes. Gray manes. That's what it's, gray manes. And they're like the wolves.
Greymane or Battleborn.
Yeah, basically. And they were people who were loyal to the old king before he died. The king died, and then, so the kingdom erupts, right? Everybody starts fighting for power. Mm-hmm. The Grey Manes were the ones who were loyal to the king, and they're trying to continue his view of a peaceful, united world or whatever, right? But they're supposed to be also like an elite soldier. They're not, but I mean, it's nothing too mystical, but they're just elite soldiers, right? Mm-hmm. Your camp gets attacked by a group called the Black Bears, and they're the most counter. They're like the opposite of your group. They are antithesis. You end up dying or basically die. You fight through this fight with them, and then you try to save some of your members. So they kind of go, it kind of gives you a cue. Here's like 4 or 5 key members of the Grey Manes, right? Mm-hmm. And you go around and you're saving them from the Black Bears, and then finally you get hit. And the game, like, obviously swarms you and makes it to where you're going to eventually lose.
One of those fights that,
Yes. And so you get hit, stabbed a bunch, like you should die. You get pushed into the river or the creek or whatever that's running underneath you. And then as you're floating in the water, something happens and you get taken over by, like, what looks like, I don't know, a weird alien technology. I don't know. But anyway, it zooms you. And then all of a sudden you wake up and you're on like the riverbed, and somebody rescued you, pulled you out. You wake up and you walk, and so you're talking to this guy, and it just kind of goes from there. And then he takes you to a local, you kind of get on a horse. It teaches you how to get on a horse and ride the horse. Mm-hmm. He takes you to a little like encampment where you learn, save feet. I don't know. It's not. So you kind of have to, and then you just follow the story. It's very simple. It's not particularly hard. I don't think it's bad. It's people are like, oh, it's so boring. It's awful. I was like, it wasn't bad. It just wasn't, high intensity. It was kind of like you're figuring it out. You could tell it was teaching you basic game mechanics so you can function. And then it kind of starts to open up, and the quests open. You can find bounties, so you can just track down people. Whenever it's very open, you get to do your thing. It's very like, as you're going to do one thing, you'll end up finding 3 or 4 different things that are fun and it's very experimental. Like you can solve all these quests, like 2 or 3. Like one guy, there's a quest where you have to rescue somebody from a burning house. Somebody got a bunch of pots and jars of water, splashed it on the fire, put the fire out, then got the guy out, pulled him out. Some other guy just used his magic arm and flung the guy out of the house. Good enough, got it done. It's kind of like that. You can do a lot of things. There's one thing where you can grab onto stuff, right? Well, there's a mechanic now. If you grab onto the big trees at the top and you yank the tree back and you jump, it will launch you and you can fly using the trees. But it's just something you could, there's so much you can just play around with in the game that it's very, you know what? It does something that Baldur's Gate 3 does, and it gives you massive amounts of, you can solve stuff and do stuff, kind of try it is the answer, right? Like, just try it, see if it works. Like, try to solve a problem in a different way. It gives you that, so, like, if there's guards out in front of the house you want to get into, right? You can just kind of go behind it, crawl up the wall, go in the back window. You can open a window and like, there's a bunch of, it's just like, you don't have to be like, oh, I have to wait until I can, get this key or whatever. There's different ways of going about doing stuff. Just like try something different. And I think that's why, getting back to our initial point, I think that's why it's polarizing, right? A lot of people really are in the, tell me exactly point A, B, have a glowing line on the ground showing me exactly where I go, and with the exact per step instructions to the left side of the window at all times. Tell me exactly the steps that, it's like, instead of, this game is like, no, have fun with the mechanics we have put in the game.
Yeah. I think a lot of people have lost that ability, though. Like, if there's one thing that I think about people that play video games, whether it's correct or not, I think they love efficiency. right? They're super in favor of things that are efficient. And so if there's a problem in front of them and they have 8 different ways to solve it, they're not having fun unless they know the exact one that is the most efficient and the
Right.
best way to go about it, and they then do it that way, right? The other 7 don't matter and in fact get in the way of what they are used to, that is like,
Isn't that a problem? Because I like that. I think that's where the
it's a huge
fun
problem.
is. Like this is they make it where you can be creative, go have fun, live in the world, go. I think it's so. My official opinion is it is an absolutely fantastic game. I will say it's not for everybody, right? Because I do get that. Like there's people who they get maybe 4 hours a week to play a video game, right?
Mhm.
They work hard, have families. They're going to little league. They're taking their wife out on dates. They're mowing the lawn, etc. This game takes a lot of time investment because it's so deep. Like the crafting, super deep. You have to go collect stuff, and you actually chop down trees, and it's the whole thing. Um, so I get that it wouldn't be for them. They may want something quick, short. Just I want to jump in, get a burst of adrenaline, a bit of a relaxation, endorphin rush. Gone. I get that. I'm fine with that being the case. I'm a big proponent of everybody. Video games should be able to give everybody a little something of what they want. But I do think the problem is where people go, this game was not for me. Ergo, it is a bad game.
Mhm.
Right? That's what I've seen online a lot. Is the mechanic. I don't like this one thing about the game. The game is bad. Right? It's like no, you just don't. It's not for you. It doesn't make the game bad because people who like this game love it. Right? So it is a good game for those who think it's fun. But I think that's the case. I mean, me and you talk about that a lot, where social media leads to that, right? Like social media leads to
Yeah.
that mentality of I don't like hamburgers, therefore hamburgers are bad. Not
People just jump to very egocentric conclusions about everything, right? Just about everything. Um, and the faster things get, the more that becomes the standard, and
yeah.
eventually camps form. And because everyone wants to feel like they're a part of a camp, yeah, you get these massive polarized, clusterfucks. I don't know. We've talked about it a million times, and it feels hopeless every time we mention
Yeah.
it.
Not wrong. I'm sad. I made us sad. No, I'm not sad because I think it is a fun game. I was just saying for a lot of people who are on the fence and have kind of heard a lot of negative, like you have to gauge for yourself if you like to solve problems yourself, and if it's a true open world game, right? Like if you like to just go and engage and do all kinds of different little things, or if you're a straight. But it is a pretty solid game.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see here. We talked about this, and I'm curious about your, because I know you are big into the concept of introspection.
Mm-hmm.
I also am big on the concept of introspection, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think looking at yourself and being honest, and here's the key, being honest about what you find matters.
Agreed.
Here is somebody I think was talking about maybe therapy, but I'm trying to figure out how to read this. But anyway, let's just say here's Elon Musk writing this. Reinforcing negative neural pathways via therapy or introspection is a recipe for misery. Don't cut a rut in the road. And someone else that he was responding to, someone who said, big conclusion from this week. Introspection causes emotional disorders. And I think they are misrepresenting introspection. They're misdefining it. I think
mental disorders. They might be misdefining that, or both.
Emotional disorders. Yeah. Something's wrong because I don't think introspection is where you just think about how bad the world is, and that's all you're doing. Right? You're just
Agreed.
it's sad. Like that's not introspection.
In introspection, you often find things that you are fairly good at above what the people around you are good at. That's absolutely true. And however, I think introspection very often does lead to short-term temporary anxiety or unhappiness because you are having to deal with the negative parts.
Yeah.
But that's not necessarily an emotional disorder. That's very normal if you're looking at something and you're like, I don't like this aspect of myself. That's not a disorder. That's just what it is.
Do you think it depends on the therapy? Because I kind of agree
I'm
that
not
there are
even
a lot
talking
of
about therapy. I don't know
yeah.
where therapy comes in with this, right? Like, are you introspecting with another person there?
Well,
Because
that's what
I don't
I
know.
think this is what it started with, talking about how bogus. Because there's the next one I'm going to talk about is also on this line, but there's a bunch. It started someone talking about therapy and being like therapy
Okay.
is a waste of time. It actually causes people to be more mentally unstable. I agree with this for a lot of it because therapy
My
doesn't cause
intuition,
introspection. It's a therapist who's getting paid and they're just asking you, feel for me. What do you feel? Just tell me about your. And they keep making you feel stuff. They're not actually asking you to be introspective, which is to accurately and realistically look at the situation, look at yourself, and see what can be solved, how to fix it, how to get out of it. They just tell you, start feeling something and tell
mhm.
me what you feel. That's very interesting. Come back next week, right? I think the
Well,
problem. Oh, go ahead.
I dislike that there's so many different brands of therapy, and everyone is just like,
Yes.
oh, well, that person has their own style, that person has their own style, this has their own style, blah blah blah. When a lot of those styles, I think, are, as you say, kind of a lazy approach, where it's just like, I will sit and listen to you for so long, and I don't know that those really work. There was one that I like by a guy named Carl Rogers, um, that was basically he was a therapist who thought, well, what we should do is you should sit in the room with someone and basically behave as though you are their closest friend and ally, right? So listen to what they have to say, offer suggestions when it is appropriate, and genuinely try to help the other person get
Yeah,
better, right?
I would
And
agree
if
with
what
that.
the other person needs is to look inward and honestly reflect on some things, then that's what they do. If what they need is something else, then you say, I think you should do this other thing, right? But you are offering advice as a good and knowledgeable friend would. I think that is the right way to do it, and I think the wrong way to do it is what a lot of people unfortunately do, where they just listen and say, as you say, tell me your feelings. How do you feel about this? How do you feel about that? And it's just sort of aimless wandering. I
Mhm.
think that's probably detrimental.
There's the other element where I remember seeing a post by a woman, and she said, and she got really, she's basically saying, like, warning other women. She said, I started going to a therapist about it was about my boyfriend or whatever. And she said, oh, the woman was telling me, like, how great I was, how I was brilliant, how I needed to just break up with him. He was dragging me down, so on. So, like, basically praising her constantly. And it was her husband, actually, now I remember. And she said, you need to get divorced. She talked this whole woman through all this stuff. And finally, she said, I liked it because it was stroking my ego initially. I loved it. It was telling me how right I was, how wrong he was.
Mm-hmm.
She was like, now that I look back at it, she made me very, like, it ended up being the wrong decision. She did not help me
Right,
correct things that I was doing wrong, that I was the
right.
cause of. And she said, I sent my friend to her. The very first session my friend went to her, she told her friend, the therapist told her friend, there we go, I was trying to
Gotcha.
clarify, um, that she needed to break up with her boyfriend. And, like, so basically this therapist just is like, hates men, hates other people having relationships. And what she found out, this other lady, it was divorced, and basically she's just jealous and angry. But she abused her position as a therapist, which is the other thing I was going to talk about. Is, like, I think that's the other problem with therapy, right? We give psychologists and therapists, like,
Just a
way too much
massive
of a
amount of
yes,
trust, and like, we
way too
think
much,
they're
like,
all
oh,
there.
they are
Yeah,
clearly just there for you, and everything they do is scientific
right.
based. It's, no emotion, no bias. It's
One
like,
of the
no, you
most
got.
common articles I get as I scroll through my RSS feed in the morning is like, psychology says blah 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 about people who blah 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 and
Yeah,
blah blah blah. And they think they can just throw psychology out there as the ultimate, like,
yeah.
bedrock of ideas upon which they can claim anything they would like,
Yeah,
And it's
yeah.
like, what the hell is this? Right? Um, God, so I had this friend several years ago who is now married, and the wife is, she can be difficult, right? She can be very opinionated without reason and forceful about her views, um, and I forget what it was, but they were in a session, and he was being quite reasonable and she was not, and she ended up, like, leaving halfway through the session or something. And the therapist, she said to my friend, you know, it is up to you whether you are willing to do this for the rest of your life, but you need to understand that this will be the rest of your life,
Yeah.
right? And I thought that is good
That's
advice,
good
right?
advice.
Like
Yes, that is solid
not
advice.
saying, right, that is a well-reasoned, level-headed thought.
Yes.
Um, but I know that that is not every psychologist that is out
Right.
there that is doing that, right? That's the rough part. Uh,
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of psychologists know that they can make money by saying, "Oh no, you're right. You're absolutely everything you think is correct," and because people want to hear that. A lot of psychologists just tell people what they want to hear, so they'll come back. Right? They're not trying to fix the problem. In fact, it's financially beneficial for the psychologist, the therapist, that they not
keep
fix the
getting
problem.
paid. Yeah.
So just make you feel a little bit better, so that then by the next week you're feeling bad again because you didn't actually solve the problem. Problem rears
Yeah.
its head again, and they get more money. It's
Yeah. And I think
unfortunately,
there's a pretty clear correlation between how often you think of yourself and your misery, right? Like
mm-hmm.
the people that are more happy than those who are not think of themselves less, right? They're just not on their minds as much. And so I guess this strategy that a lot of psychologists use where it's like, all right, let's think about your emotions, let's talk about them, let's think about it, right? Void of correction, right? I think it's just sort of pushing that further into, well, I now think of myself a lot more and thus I am unhappy
I
more
have a
often, right?
question.
It's yeah.
How do we separate that from introspection? Because I know you mean think of yourself almost like in a
Don't get
narcissistic
me wrong.
way,
I
but
No, I don't. I don't. I think of yourself at all, right? Whether it's
huh.
in a introspective, healthy, way. I do think it will make you more sad the more often you do it, right? I think that is a natural outcome of even good, healthy introspection, is that you become a bit, you just need the resilience to be able to push through it, right? And
Mm.
I think it is for the better in the long run. But
I
as
see.
I
You're
hearkened to
saying
earlier,
sad is like almost like a temporary state, like you.
yes,
Yes, not like a deep broken.
not a it changes your soul to be more like negative compared to the
Yeah,
positive outlook, right? But a short-term period of suffering as you look inward and have to reconcile.
yeah, maybe. Yeah, I have to come up with a better term. It's like
Go ahead.
sorrow for me. Sorrow is like you're right though. Sorrow can be temporary. Like you're sad when a family member dies, but
Yes.
eventually that wears. Like you kind of
Yes.
move to where it maybe it's still there a little, but you move on. So yeah, you're right. You're right.
And
I
I
think
think
you're.
this is not that dissimilar. Good introspection leads to a death of the person that you once were,
Yeah,
and then you grow. It is not, I think, dissimilar from mourning a loss, um, and then moving forward.
that's interesting. And I think now that you say it, I think the problem isn't with what the wording we chose was. It's the fact that society and people go, "Ooh, sad. It'll make me sad. I should never be sad."
Yeah,
And it's like
yeah,
everybody avoids. It's like no, sorrow sometimes is a healthy, good thing. It's just not if you sit in it and don't move on from, don't use it to
yeah.
build yourself up in a certain way. Like it's how you
And I
use
also
it.
think on the other side, there is a very strange cohort of people that are almost obsessed with, the
Being
introspection.
negative.
I must be perfect, and
Yes.
I must, I do think that cohort exists as well, particularly with a lot of young men right now who are being pushed in that direction of like, you need to be better, you need to be better, you need to be better. I think they tend to almost feel at home with the self-flagellation of,
Yeah, because I mean, I do think we should always be growing, but I think there's a difference between going, "I'm pretty good, I could be better," versus
yeah.
"I am not perfect and I must reach
See,
perfection."
that's been on my mind recently about this always growing thing, right? Because you might be right, I don't know, but I've been thinking, well, to what end, right? Why must we keep growing? For what purpose? Um, and I could see a reasonable argument that it is like it is what makes the human soul good or something. It makes you feel a certain way, but I don't know that that's always true. And why am I getting better, right? Because I think a lot of people are out there getting better to be a better friend or companion to the people around them. But I think sometimes you can push yourself so far away from where they are at that you are in fact a worse companion to the people around. So it's been on my mind, and I don't have a clear answer. But
I wonder if maybe I'm using too broad a terminology. I do think we
or
need
you
to
might be just
improve
be
because
wrong.
new information comes into your life is what I guess I'm thinking, and you need to adjust and adapt because then that's the only way you're still connected to reality. And I think you have to be connected to reality. Like otherwise, you start making decisions that do actually cause suffering. Like once you get to the point where you disassociate, you come up with incorrect conclusions, incorrect solutions. You see that a lot in. You're good. Um,
I'm listening. I got you.
yeah, in politics and stuff, like people come up with, oh, here's this utopian idea because it's removed from reality. It doesn't look at all the
Yeah.
suffering that will be caused by that attempt at getting to utopia. And so it's like, that's, I guess, when I say you're always growing, I think I'm always thinking more mentally and like you're just always taking information. And you're like, okay, now let me reassess. Is this still reality, or do I reject the new information, or do I go, oh, I need to adjust the way I view things a little bit? And because I mean, yeah, it's like because we talked about old grumpy men, I think last week. It's like the way you kind of stay away from that is, I don't know. I guess not, because there is sometimes where the more you look at the world, the more you go, man, I'm getting grumpier. The more I
I do think
deal
you
with
get
people.
grumpier, right? Knowledge is, if ignorance is bliss, the knowledge is suffering,
Yeah,
right? Yeah, to some degree.
that is interesting. Huh.
So I don't know. It's a question. Maybe we'll discuss it another time when you come to
Maybe we should
an
be
argument
done. I don't
about it.
know. I mean, I've agreed with that. Like, I do think there's a bit of like being just dumb and lost in the world and thinking everything happens for just being
Yeah.
kind of lost is a blissful state. Right? You just
I suppose I'm trying to position myself opposite the insane self-improvement kick that the world is on. Because I do think self-improvement is good, but I think it's become like the golden calf, right? Is this self-improvement thing where people seem to worship
I
this
think
growth.
it's more of just the people you've been dealing with. I think overall, it's more to blame everybody else. I still think the overall Western civilization thing is it's not my fault. It's everybody else's fault. I still see that, like, because the more I watch, like I just watched today where a teenager broke into somebody's house, got shot, and the family said, "How else is he supposed to get his money? The woman should have just let him steal stuff." So that is
It's
what
crazy.
it was just say psycho. It's no that kid. You should have taught your kid not to break and take other people's stuff,
Correct.
and then so on and so forth. Like there's lots of introspection that this should have been done, and I just you whether it's racial stuff, whether it's everybody trying to be the victim, so you're trying to figure out what version of sexuality you get to be while still not changing anything about what you actually like, right? Like you're still a woman who is with a straight man, and that is the relationship you've been in for 10 years, but you've decided to tack on some sort of adjective
Yeah.
modifier so that you can feel special and different and like, oh no, I'm part of a victimized group, so I don't have to be introspective about some of my decisions. Like I see that. I still think overall that's the thing, but I do think what you're talking about is a recoil. It's a result of that. That became so aggressive and so overwhelming that a lot of people kind of had a recoil to that. Like they recognized that was
I agree.
wrong, and so it became like, oh, now I gotta, be mad.
But I guess if the middle is here and we were over here, and then as a recoil we've swung back this
Some
way. I
people
don't
have,
think
yeah,
there's ever a good way for us to know. Like, all right, everyone, we have hit the median again. We are good. We can now. I think it's natural that it swings now the other way.
Do
And
you think it's
I guess I
everybody is
can.
doing that, or do you think it's just a
No,
young men?
truthfully, I think we have two camps over here, and we're not actually. I think the two camps are not near the middle.
That's what I think. Like, I still think the same people who were, yes, like you were saying, the same people who were being victims and trying to blame everybody, but they never look
Are still
introspectively,
doing it.
are still the ones doing it. And I just think it's a different group
That has taken the complete opposite,
yeah,
and rather than actually bringing anyone back to the medium, we just have
yeah.
the two. Yeah,
I
I
mean,
agree with you.
I've talked to you about this. I always go, if we had to go one extreme or the other, I think the better extreme would be to try to better yourself, even if it gets to be too much. I think for humanity and society, it's always better to try to make yourself better first, right? Bible says, get the log out of your own eye before you get the speck out of the neighbor's, right? So it's always.
I don't disagree.
If we had to fail, that's the direction. But I agree with you.
But we don't.
Don't accept. Yes, don't accept the failure. Try to find that. Don't find. Go out and actually find the correct balance. Right. That is it. Yeah. No, I agree. God, man, we always have this where it's we're working it out, and we wiggle it out, and we're not the podcast of conclusive statements. We are the podcast of like, well, we worked a little bit more in one direction. I guess we'll see where life takes us, and we'll visit this again in years.
Which is, I think, why it's somewhat trustworthy. All the people claiming to have all the conclusions, all the answers with absolute certainty, I'm pretty fucking sick of it.
Yeah,
you can go fuck yourself.
Yeah, I kind of
agree with
some
of the comments that I've been seeing on some of these shorts and stuff. It's
yeah,
God, these people think they know everything, right? Holy shit, man, you are so confident. And then if you say anything in response, I have this one, I have that one, I have this one, and it's like, okay.
Yeah, well, there's the guy that did the that was the other one, the $400,000 a year. Somebody commented on that.
I saw that one, and I thought, okay, this is good data. I guess I would like to see where it came from, or so on.
Well, also, I didn't think it added up.
By the end, they got very confident, and I was like, okay, now I see. So I looked at his channel, by the way. I was like, let's see. Oh,
really? You went further than I did. Yeah.
I was like, well, shit, man, this guy is throwing around numbers like he is a fucking genius. Maybe there's something on his
I knew when he quoted, like, the medium average from, I can't remember who it was, but for like $1,800 for a family, like he quoted some like broad, almost like an insurance company. It wasn't an insurance, but it was one of those type of like, okay, but they're just saying this is what people do spend, not this is what you need to spend, or this is what a viable. It's like this is what people do. Go ahead, continue. Sorry.
No, I went to his channel. It was one video of him playing Rust, practicing his aim. And it was saying something like, I play a lot of Rust and I might start streaming soon. And I was like, okay, well, I don't know who you are. I don't know what you think. You clearly have a lot of information about certain things, but who knows if you just threw it through ChatGPT to make yourself sound smart. I was trying to discern if he was a 12-year-old kid or if he was like a grown adult. Right? Yeah. That's all inconclusive. I can't discern it.
I started doing the math on what he was saying. And that's when I started kind of being like, I don't think this works. Because he was like, basically all his math came to, you need about $110K a year of actual expenditure for a family of 4 to do all the things he said, right? Like car insurance, this goes this way. And I was like, okay, how does that get to $400K a year? And then he was like, well, after taxes. He tried to like, he couldn't get even like, I was like, okay, I might even give you $200K a year. But then he was like, well, after taxes, that just, I was like, where are you living that over 60%, actually he was probably getting close to 70%, but we'll say over 60% of your income is being taxed out. Because that's basically what he was saying. And I was like, not where I live. We don't even have a state income tax, so it'd just be what the federal government takes from you. And it still wouldn't double what you have to make, right? Like I think I was like, okay, I could even see for a family of 4, if you want to say $200K a year to live
we've changed we've moved the goalpost now.
Yes,
it's not just
exactly.
Raising a kid. Now it's a family of 4.
4,
right?
yes.
That's fine, right? But it's a different discussion.
We are having a different discussion. And even that, I'm like, but I think it also goes to what you're, he was talking about like housing. It's like, oh, a low income house is $250K a year. I was like, $250,000 for the house. And I was like, our house is not like, it's not, it needs repair, but far as like its actual just general basic, what it would sell for on the market, it's in a decent neighborhood. You've been there. It's in a, nice neighborhood, decent size. It's fairly large. People could put, if we could throw $50K at it, we'd probably have it nice again. But it's I think it's around like $320,000 value,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's more than what a lot. I mean, that is a nice house for a family. If you were to have it in its proper status, not it's
Yeah.
two old men can't repair anything. Um, and I'm like, I don't think you have to have that. I think that's basically where he was
Yeah.
aiming, and I'm like, I don't think you. So what I assumed when he said low income, I'm thinking he must be living in like New York or California or something,
Mm-hmm.
because he's also taxing. He's also thinking of taxation as being like 60% of what you're making.
Very high. He said Indiana, I think, in
Really?
one of his later comments. I don't know if you saw it, but
No, I probably I
he
quit
said
looking.
he said he was in Indiana, and I don't know this stuff, right? Like maybe the numbers check out. I don't know, but there was such a wash of numbers all being thrown in together. Either it like the system in his brain is just much clearer than it is in mine, or he's misleading, whether intentionally or not.
I think he had an opinion, and he did the thing where he puts the numbers out. Like I did as much math as I could. I was adding up his numbers. I was like on my phone
Yeah,
calculating
you
it
put
up.
more work into it
It
than I
did not.
did
It did
for sure.
not. It did not add up. Like his
Yeah.
numbers. He basically couldn't get there to where it was 400K, and then he just kind of said taxes. Like that was
Yeah.
his like, oh, the other 260,000 you'll need. That's just taxes. Like he just kind of threw it out there.
But even the other stuff, like another comment I saw was like, "Oh, we were doomed well before Iran or something
Oh
like
yeah, I
that."
saw.
And I
Yeah,
was like, "Okay, well, it's just it's what we pointed out before. Here is my opinion. Here is my it is conclusive. This is how it is."
yeah.
It's
Oh, we
it's
were doing yeah because we were talking about how what was that in reference? Oh, it was actually saying people shouldn't be so sure
exactly.
of what they
It's a
think.
comment on that video.
Yes, that was the whole point. Was like well, you shouldn't be so. Nobody knows anything, and then it used the Iran conflict currently going on as an example of like, well, nobody knows how it's going to turn out. So stop saying you know exactly what the future holds. You don't. It was like we were doomed long before, and it was just like
It's another conclusion, right? Yes, I understand it's not on the tether of point A and point B
yeah.
that we highlighted, but you've just on another tether. You've just it's another one. It's point A and point B. We were doomed or we weren't doomed, right? That's and now here,
I
behold, the
know.
conclusion.
I know that we were. Yes, it was like it was funny. You did the meme. You did the meme, right? Like that's the
Right?
thing. It's
Yeah.
like you did the thing.
I
Actually,
don't
I will
know.
say one of my favorite comments we got was somebody said that they thought that the video popped up on their timeline, and they thought that JD Vance was wearing a baseball cap, and I think he was talking about me, and I think I couldn't tell if he was just. I think he maybe was making a joke about the fat JD memes. Do you know
Oh,
what? And I was like,
I
and I
don't.
said, I commented back, and I think he reacted positively to it. So I think maybe
I
he was
think
making a joke, but
it
it
was
was
like
one of my favorites.
the first week or two I was working out with my gym buddy, and this old guy randomly comes up to him and is like, "Are you Pete Hegseth?" And my gym buddy's like, "No." And he was like, "You look just like Pete Hegseth." And after a while, I was like, you know,
Yeah, right. I
I mean,
guess
I
it's because I
guess,
got
but
facial. I'm a little bit chunky, and I got facial hair. My
people
face
are
is. Eh,
people are too into politics, man. Like
Well,
if
I think
that's
JD's almost like he's a meme, right? So I kind of
yeah.
got that. That's why I was like, oh, that's fine. I think he's a pretty handsome man. So I mean, I said thank you, I appreciate it, and I said I could almost kiss you for this comment. And then I said extra points if you're talking about fat meme JD or something like that.
I just think people are they think of those
Mm-hmm.
people just too much. Like I went on a call. I don't know if I told you about it, one of my calls. So one of the things we have to do is assess if people are like of sound mind before we leave,
Right.
right? And so we go to this guy and we're asking him some of the questions, right? My favorite question to ask is Mickey Mouse a dog or a cat, right? Because if they go, what dog or cat, it's clear that they're not thinking straight. If they go, he's a mouse, you know immediately, okay, they're pretty good, right? Um, but we ask them like, do you know what your name is? And George, right? And then we had to look at the wife. She was like, "That's his name. Do you know where you are?" South Carolina? No, no, sir. We're in Seminole County. Okay. Do you know what day of the week it is? Tuesday? Right. He got all of these wrong, right? And it took him a while. And however, do you know who the president is? Oh, Trump. Right? It's like
Right.
immediate bang. I just thought, my God, dude,
It's
you
so
don't know where you are
deeply,
in this
yes.
world. You don't know where you are on this earth. You are off by like 3 states. But man, you know who the president is, right? That I think is a huge problem. I think that is not a good way to live life, man.
Oh, I agree. I agree. Yeah, I do agree that it's a little too. I'm gonna turn you up a little bit, by the way. We do live in a overly polarized where like the way we view everything is around politics. Like it's just it invades everything. You can't like people cheering Chuck Norris's death, right? Like they were happy and he deserved. Oh, thank God he's gone. It's strictly because he switched politics, 20 years ago from Democrat to Republican. And
ridiculous.
so
the guy's entitled to his political
totally nice
opinion.
guy. Everybody, he's a great guy in real life. Helps a bunch of people. Great actor, fun. Everything he's ever done has been pretty positive. I've never seen really genuinely negative stories about the guy. And the only reason they're upset with him is he's just not on their political side of the spectrum.
Yeah.
And then Trump did it, right? But now I kind of get his because Mueller was the one who raided his home and like took all his stuff.
He had a personal issue with.
So I kind of get his like being like good riddance. I kind of like. I don't want to give a bye.
I think he would be a better man for not having said that.
Yes, agreed. Agreed.
But I can understand why he did.
Yeah, it wasn't just because of politics. It was like he personally had been put through hell because of this man. He had suffered, and so there was but I agree with you. I would have preferred him to just been like
to not say that.
Yeah, just don't say anything. I get you can't say like R.I.P. Right? Just don't say anything.
If you cannot stand the man and you truly are happy that he is dead, say nothing. Say let it sit and die in your mind. You do not need to,
that's the social media thing, right? We just always feel like we have to publicly make a statement about everything. Johnny stubbed his toe. Well, I tell you what, let me tell you about Johnny now. Toe stubbing. I would have walked it off and then captured a shark. It's just like everybody. It's like you don't have to have an opinion about everything, or if you have an opinion, it doesn't have to be voiced to the world, to the universe. That's. We're like, it's not good enough for me to share with my friends in a little chat. We have to put it on the internet and say, "World, listen to my brilliance."
I wish people were more confident in giving out like not certain things. Like imagine the tweet that's like, I don't know what to think about this person's death, right?
Yes.
Like that would be so anomalous, so strange, right? Because it doesn't even, and yet I think it would be more truthful often, right? It'd be, I don't know what to think about the war in Iran. I have no idea how it's going to end and I don't have the data, right? 2 thumbs up from me. But the world is then going to fill that comment section with here's what you should think about it and why and so on.
Yeah, no, I agree. I'm wondering if hey, we're back to where does this need more interest? Is it because everybody's so outward that there's no introspection? You know what I mean? Like this is where we're back to like, well, maybe we should have more introspection because people aren't looking.
How many people are diagnosed with like mild anxiety or depressive disorders just because when they sit alone with their thoughts, they're uncomfy.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, that is the introspection that will cure things, that will help you, right? You have to sit in that for a while. And no, I don't like it. So I'm on SSRIs.
Yeah.
Okay.
I agree. And I think that's actually why you see a big rise in marijuana use, right? It gets people to where they're not. It kind of numbs that element of their introspection. It keeps
Well, a lot of people joke about how like they can't stand being alone with their thoughts in the silence or something like that.
Yeah.
And it's like it's kind of a joke, but a lot of people I think really like would benefit from some time alone with their thoughts, but then they don't do it. They find any way not to do it, whether it's AirPods, whether it is just having the TV on while you're falling asleep, whatever it might be. It's anything to avoid this slight negative that will actually help me.
Yeah, let me throw this at you since we're kind of back on the subject. I was waiting for us to
Good.
get back. So,
Just wanna chat.
billionaire Mark Andreessen, or Andreessen, I'm sorry, Mark Andreessen, says he has quote unquote zero introspection and that the idea itself is a modern invention. To which someone else replied, "This is, of course, our word. Special. R special. R dash special. Um, The great men of history were deeply introspective. They wrote memoirs, journals, diaries, poetry. They were philosophers, theologians. They yearned. They were romantics. They were, in fact, much more introspective than the average person today. However, it is true that none of the great men of history, or any men at all, or even women, were sitting around whining to therapists about their feelings. I think the difference, and maybe this is what he's trying to get at, is that historical men wanted to know himself, while modern man cares only about how he feels about himself. The former wanted to know himself and the world beyond, regardless of how it made him feel. The latter wants to feel good about himself, even at the expense of knowing himself and the world beyond. That's why that's why he drugs himself into oblivion. But this is not introspection, it's anti-introspection.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that kind of got at what we were trying to, like, the distinction we were pulling at least hints at what we were talking about, that there's a difference between what people call introspection versus actual introspection.
Yeah, agreed. And first off, that billionaire is a fucking loser, right?
Yeah.
Like, quite at
I
least
don't care
that's a
how much
loser
no,
statement,
I agree.
right?
I don't care how much money
Um,
he makes, he's a loser. I agree.
that is clearly intended to stir up drama if it is
Yes.
not if it is not true. If it's true, I pity him. Um,
I don't know
I
how
mean,
you
there
can
are
even.
countless books that will indicate like for centuries people have been trying to understand themselves, right? The common one that's going to get thrown at you by every podcast bro is Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. I might go with anything by Thomas Hobbes or David Hume or Kant, right? Those are all like quite focused on introspection and what we are really, right? um, I now I do think you're right that a lot of people get these words mixed up. Um, and when we say introspection, I don't mean the sitting on a therapy chair just talking with someone about how you feel about a certain thing.
Mhm.
Um, I do mean like a genuine, am I doing this right? Am I doing this wrong? What can I do to get better at this? What can I do to get better at that? Right? You're right. It's a knowing of oneself, not necessarily a knowing how I feel, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
I don't know. I largely agree with what that person responded.
Yeah. I thought he started to dig at what we were getting at and making a clarification. Let me and I'm back. Okay, so um we were talking about some replies earlier, and one of them we got was to the short I put out that took a clip of where we talked about society being too rushed, too quick, how that's probably not healthy for anybody. And one of the replies said, "Oh, well, that's because of capitalism. It's
Mm.
because businesses need to make more money, and what was it? Investors want to see more profit turnaround, and as long as the elites control the means of a production, blah blah, so on and so forth." Um, I disagree. I think it doesn't matter the system. I think it is a matter of human nature and human condition. Uh, my examples are in I'm assuming since he said some things. that the polar opposite, let's take capitalism out of it. If you look at just about any socialist or communist country, they end up having almost the same dichotomy, where there are the workers who live at a certain standard and have certain things and have quotas, literal quotas in the factories they work in or in the farms they work at, whatever, that are placed on them. And then you have the rich elites, right? You have the people in government. Stalin never went without meat. You know what I mean? People were standing in line. Stalin didn't go. Maduro, they picked him out of a nice house with air conditioning and stocked fridges, right? Other people in Venezuela did not have these things. You could go through China before they actually started going more capitalistic, is how they saved their economy. They opened up to a lot more free market. That's where you get companies like Tencent and some of these other. Anyway, my point being is I think humans always, anytime there is a position of power, there's going to be the people who see that position of power as an availability, and they will realize that they don't have to suffer as much as other people do. They go up there and they take, it's just the human condition, right? Like, humans naturally try to get for themselves what they can. And so the system in play does not fix human nature. I think that's really what I'm getting at. I don't think there is a...
Sounds familiar. It sounds... It's almost like we had a discussion about this where I said exactly that. Wow, that's remarkable.
We did. I don't know if we had it on. Did we have it on podcast or were we just saying?
No, we were just chatting.
But yes,
I think that our commenter has made several good points. I think
I agree with that.
Good premises to it, right? I think that we do have a problem with the shareholders that want immediate profit, and many of the things that he says I think are appropriately targeted.
I agree with that.
Problems.
Yep.
But I think that the conclusion of it is therefore the system that they are at play within it's a faulty conclusion, right? I would ask, which conclusion sounds better? We should thus dismantle the system that has these elements within it, or we should disassemble the elements of humanity that are causing this this problem. I think it is definitely, like, as you say, human nature that needs to be conquered rather than the systems. Now, you absolutely have some systems that are better than others for dealing with these things, but I don't think that it is clear at all that an alternative would currently work better than capitalism, which is, I'm not a capitalist shill. I'm not a socialist shill. All I'm saying, there very well could be a system better than capitalism out there that would fix many of these problems. I just think of the alternatives, they are not that, right? So if we would have to try something, I think, totally new.
Well, I mean,
but I don't know what it would look like.
You're seeing a little bit of a shift in the U.S. economy, and people are like, oh, capitalism is failing. But I don't think that's accurate. I think capitalism is becoming more socialistic. That's actually what's happened. The government has gotten more involved in business, and what has happened, as is always the case, the people in power kind of start doing their thing, and so the government started putting in policies that they present to the people. Oh, this is consumer protection. We're protecting you. But all it does is it makes it where small and medium-sized companies cannot function. They cannot afford whatever the government fee is.
The big ones.
The big ones can, and so it just creates which is basically what socialism is, right?
Of what
That's how socialism goes. Oh, the government says this corporation gets, or this factory gets to work. This factory gets to work. This is, it's like it's state controlled stuff. And I just think we've moved, instead of having an actual free market where the purchaser can go, oh, I don't like that organization. Here's another small mom and pop that maybe slightly more expensive, but they're local and they give me what I want and I trust them. I'm going to go I'm going to go use them. And then that small mom and pop, since they have a better service or offer cheaper prices or whatever through competition, grow. And then they either make the big company get better or the big company dies out and then they take their place. That's how it's actually supposed to work. The problem is when the government comes in and tries to take care of stuff and control things, it makes it to where you can't. And then obviously politicians are human, and when some organization says we're going to give you $2 million a year to pass this one legislation that'll keep us from having legitimate competition, it's gonna, like, you can't put that much. That's why it's never supposed to have that much control, because it just, when a certain small group of people have this massive amount of power, it's always going to. It's always going to go this way. It doesn't matter what system.
Were one of the earliest concerns about all of the United States politics going into it, and not at all because of capitalism, but rather just because of the democratic nature of our government, right? Like, democracy naturally like favors factions growing and developing and campaigning for their own interests, right? And whether we were socialist or capitalist, that faction-based system is going to exist no matter our economic policy. So I think there's far too many confounding variables to be like, I am sure that it is because of our economic policy.
I feel like it's so clear that it's the human condition. We have enough evidence. Like that's the other thing. We have evidence. It's not like nobody's tried some of these systems. You're right. There could be some perfect middle ground system that somehow works. Nobody's invented yet. Nobody's thought of.
Or maybe it's a better system that is totally to the left or totally to the right. Maybe it's not a middle ground at all. Maybe it's super extreme, one of the two directions.
And that's just what has to happen. Yeah.
But we are not there.
I just don't think there's any system that will ever can take away human nature. I think human nature will always kick in and find where the gap is.
That I will agree with. That I will agree with. It would need to be a perfect system and not a 99.9% perfect system.
Yeah, and I don't know if humans are capable.
It's fair. It might not exist. I don't know.
I don't know. In this lifetime, in this plane of existence, if you know what I mean, like.
I suppose I'm just saying I'm open to the possibility that there is a better system than capitalism out there. Right? I am not setting my feet in the ground, putting my head in the sand, and saying capitalism will always be the best. I don't know what tomorrow might hold, but I know what yesterday held.
Yeah. Well, I think that's my point. It's like, listen, we can look at it and go, like, right now, this is still, if done properly. But the problem is, how do we? I mean, it's. It's broken right now. You're right. Like I think if you look at U.S., you do say, okay, we are broken. Like our system is not where it was supposed to be. It got tainted, and you'd have to untaint it. I do think
it is largely because of the human nature involved with many of these insecure and selfish people at the top who are just trying to shove money into their bank accounts. I think that's a huge problem. As I said earlier, appropriately targeted by our commenter.
Yeah. And I think the original system that was set up, it understood that, and that's why it removed so much power from it. It didn't give as much, like the centralized few people have vastly more power now than was intended. Like, I do think that is the case. Like the control they have now is significantly higher, and the reason that was because they realized the more centralized, the fewer the people that can actually do stuff, the more likely that group, whoever fills that group, is going to be. So if they don't have power, the temptation is that it's like they understood humans are going to do that. Let's take away that temptation by spreading the power out as much as possible. You're making it as broad as possible, you know.
Yeah. No, you make a good point. They were immensely afraid of like one or two dominant like groups. Right, that would impose their will upon the people, but they were only really concerned about it within the realm of government, whereas we have a lot of other things at play right now where those groups then congregate and become dominant, and there's nothing stop it. Right, like I think about the Hollywood elite that are absolutely having an effect on the minds of many people, when it's just there's only a few of these in this group that are having this effect. And the social media elite, right? The YouTube elite, the
streamers, the little group that always everybody uses for quotes, and
right. The tech bros, the podcasting elite, right? I think these are other areas where I think that had the founding fathers been around now, I think there would have been many other things of concern to put in there that they did not have then.
Yeah, I just wonder if you can, because you feel like you can have counters. But you're right. It's like anytime any group. That's the one thing I do think the government is just anti-monopoly. That's the big thing.
I agree.
That's like the
It
one
would be
thing I think
nice.
government should do is just keep monopolies from happening.
Yeah, the trust busting
Yeah.
days, I think, need to be a thing to go in and recognize, is this actually good for the people or is this bad for the
And I
people?
think that does
If
keep,
bad for the people, goodbye,
yeah,
done.
like when we're talking tech bros. I mean, there's only, right, there's like 4 or 5 companies that own all of media. There's 4 or 5 companies that own almost all of social
Yeah,
media. It's like if you could bust those up into a bunch of smaller ones, it would,
that would be hugely beneficial, I think.
it does keep that from having that temptation of doing. It's like I was saying, it's not only with government, but with market, with social groups, whatever.
Yeah,
The more you can kind of spread it out, the less there it becomes homogenous and becomes like you
right.
one of us. Um, so yeah, I do wonder how that, how you would do that, but I don't know. I mean, even there, I got a comment that I was gonna put with, and it's kind of connected to it's just the mentality is what we were talking about. Someone asked, let me see if I can see the original post. How do you explain? And this is just one guy asking something, so it's not my position. This is the original poster. How do you explain to the left that the economics model they want makes the rich richer and the poor poorer? And then someone replied, "You can't. There is no way to get them to see. The world has 2 types of people: consumers, entitled people who live to consume things. They will take and take. They feel entitled to everything simply for existing. And then producers, people who supply things to the consumers but are then hated for being able to produce and are seen as the problem by the entitled consumers. That's what the world is now. You can be one or the other, but you cannot easily swap once your mind locks you into one group." I mean, I think he was hinting at not necessarily that he thinks that's the truth, but like that's kind of what we've fallen into. We have gotten so polarized that you are either this or this.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the problem, right? Like anytime you get there's only 2 sides you can exist in. You can't be in the both. And you don't have to
Yeah,
consider both. It's like there is an interesting dichotomy that would is we're seeing this work out on a social grand scale where it is instead of having all these wonderful groups of people that are all different, all voicing things, and we're all kind of intermingling and trying to work it out, you're getting very clump here, fight.
yeah. I don't know. I think that there it's just so many people like struggle for identity, right? Like I that's what I always go back to is they want their ideas to be true because they've tethered those ideas to their identity as being part of a group of people that
Mhm.
share those ideas,
Yeah.
right? Like that's where I always go with it, right? Like how would you change someone who thinks capitalism is the end all be all, will always be the best result? Well, why do you want that to be true? Right? Why do you cling so hard to capitalism
Mm-hmm.
such that you are willing to throw away any sense of curiosity and lack of certainty for that? I think those are the right questions to ask. They'd be the same questions that you would ask the person who's like, no, we need socialism and communism and we need it right now. It's saying, okay, how do you know that? Why do you want that to be true? Right. And I think a lot of people struggle with that
Yeah.
because it's going to break them out of what their identity has been.
Yeah. And there was one thing that bothered me with that initial commenter because I remember he said something about I want to believe in the future of people being better, right?
Right.
And I
As
was
if
like,
all hope belongs to the people in his
yes,
circle there,
in the
right? As if it
utopian
can't
group, but
possibly
yes,
be that we are also hopeful that people will grow and get better. But we have a
and
rational view of.
I think that's getting into what you're saying. People have convinced themselves my side is good side.
I agree.
So, if you're agreeing with me, that's hoping for a better future. The other side doesn't want better. There's no way they want a better. And it's like I disagree. you know, like, I do think there's looking at things realistically, right? Like you have to go,
Yeah.
okay, historically, or let's just look at who has actually created at least a decent society versus like what has concluded out of these. We've had experiments. Let's just look at it and figure this out. Like
Yeah. And
you
I
know,
think there are small but vocal groups on both sides that
yeah,
actually don't have hope for the future
yeah,
and are, as this person might claim,
just
aggressively anti-future and something
yeah,
like for themselves, selfish. But I think those exist on both sides. I don't know.
I did not like that it was painted as like his side was the ones who have hope for the future, and the other, like, we are the good, we believe in the goodness of humanity, and
Yeah.
it's like, I don't know.
I wish I knew what to say in response, other than, that seems prideful to me, to say, perhaps maybe a bit egocentric. Not that I don't know.
Well,
I
I think you're on to something, because I do think there's something with it's the same group that's like, oh no, that wasn't real Marxist, that wasn't real such. We'll get it right this time, right? And there's this mentality of like, everybody before us was low IQ Neanderthal. We'll get it right. It's like, no, some of these guys were brilliant. That sometimes more brilliant than who's around now. More introspective, thought about the world in very philosophical way. That's what they were doing, was thinking about the world in a, how does everything work together? And they couldn't make it work. Like, the idea that, like, you now are more brilliant and knowledgeable than anyone who's ever existed in history. There's more information now. But
there's
it's not. When you talk about like fundamental like understanding and figuring stuff out, I don't know that it's not like we're higher IQ now than ever before.
I got this recommended to me the other day. I took a screenshot of it because I thought it was interesting. It was a survey back in 2025 from the Pew Research Center, right? Spring 2025. So they went to 30 countries and they asked people there one question. Are the other people who live in your country moral, or are they immoral? Right? That was the question. And the interesting part is that, many of the areas were like 92, 82, 72, 68. A lot of the people thought that people were moral, right? That was the trend, was that large groups thought that the people around them were moral. But there was only one country that they surveyed. Now, they didn't survey every country, right? We don't know
Obviously.
what North Korea or China,
Yeah.
or I think Russia's not on, right? There are significant gaps in this data, right? But of the 30 that are on here, the United States is the only one where more people said the people around them were immoral than moral. Right? We're the only one where over 50% thought, no, the people around me are not moral at all. And I think that's part of the problem here, is that a significant amount of people look at whoever's on the other side as genuinely evil of heart rather than ignorant.
Yeah.
I think that's a big issue.
It's interesting because I used to be the ignorant side, but then after engaging and trying to debate and provide information, there's a part of me that thinks, oh no, it's just self-centered. Like, they don't want the answer. Or if we discuss the answer, they just cut stuff off because it would reflect back. They would have to change it. And so that's where it's like, I don't know. Are they, like, I don't want to say, oh, they're just, and then keep giving them the benefit of the doubt, and then them just keep using that as a, you know what I mean? It's like,
yeah,
it's tough because I agree.
That keeps me
How do you do it?
Giving them the benefit of the doubt is that a lot of the sort of left-leaning policies revolve around tax me more and take my money and then, distribute it, right? Like, that's sort of the system, right? We trust others with the money.
It seems to be more tax. I don't know if it's tax me. I think they think tax. What I've heard, the majority of them actually think tax billionaires, millionaires, and then they kind of see themselves as being beneficial.
If the people on the left genuinely believe the only people that would be taxed more are the rich and not whatever's in their bracket, then that is also ignorant, right?
Yeah.
Right? Is what I think it's all totals.
But
right?
when you show them that, and that's how taxation has worked in the past, and that's how it's going to probably continue to work, and then they refuse to adapt and adjust their view, and they keep saying the same stuff. Like, Bernie Sanders talks about blah, blah, blah. He has 5 mansions worth over $2 million, right? Like,
right.
He's not sharing with the average person. The average person doesn't have that kind of, that's not average, right? That's not, he's one of the so when you point that out, they still, yes, he's already got, like, it's like, so how do you then, because at some point in time, I'm like, okay, it's not ignorant. I've given them information, and they still settle in.
It's willful ignorance at that point. It's willful ignorance on the basis of desire, because their identity is attached to a certain group, and they want that group to be the case, or to be true. What that group believes, they want that to be true. And so the contrary information is, they are willfully ignorant of it, even if it's presented to them. Right?
Yeah, and I think at that point in time, it's not just like ignorance, as you say. It's like it does start to take a little bit more of a, not nefarious, but it does, because almost all evil stuff is self, right? It's like, I will take from the bank because I want the money. I will shoot somebody because I want the gratification of knowing that they got whatever, right? It's always a self. So I think once you start including self-centered motives, then it does start to take a different, like, it's not just like this beautiful, it's like a
right. I suppose that is a fair question. Do they think when they are voting for more liberal policies, I will be the beneficiary of a lot of the programs because I am low and at the bottom? Or do they think I will be of help and benefit to those who are below me?
Yeah.
Right. I think
they know also to use the right language, because I think a lot of people, you see how I feel like they go, oh no, this is because I want to see those raised up underneath me, and they know that that's the wording because
a lot of people have memorized the script,
and they know that if you were to say, no, I just want more stuff, I want my life to be better, that doesn't sell. But psychologically, they can convince, like, it's so hard, right? Because you can't tell what a person truly believes and thinks, right? You can't tell.
What is the route to the solution of well, I would posit the route to the solution of this problem is more introspection by the people who are voting, right? I think that would be useful in this situation.
Yeah, but then if you're a selfish person, you don't introspect because
not honestly. Right?
It's like it would kick you out of that, but also it would hurt, and then that's not a selfish process. And so it's like, man, that's tough. I don't know how you.
So you should only listen to the people that are introspective. Is then the conclusion, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, listen, I agree, but let's be honest.
So that billionaire should lose all of his followers.
Yeah,
get rid of.
So should about 99% of politicians and social media influencers, all of the 100%. No, not 100. 99% of Hollywood.
I do think if you can ask someone the question of, what have you changed your mind on in the last 5 years, and they don't have anything, I think you might want to take a step back from that person,
Yeah, I think that's because especially when you're involving yourself too. It's
Yeah.
You know what? I think that's a good sign. Guys, go out there and be introspective. But good, legit introspective, right? That's our conclusion. Be legit introspective, not where you just sit and woe is me, or you think about how bad life is. Genuinely think, like, what can I do? What do I have control over? What,
right?
How do I make this better? How do I
bedrock of confidence that things can change as a direct result of your actions, which is true. They can, but have that bedrock of confidence, and then introspection is great.
Yeah. All right, go out there, be blessed, guys. We'll be back next week probably next week, maybe 2 weeks. We never know. It's kind of a fun game we like to play when we post the podcast. But it's usually every week.
I have any say in the matter.
It's
a bunch of my former students think this is my podcast, which is hilarious.
That's funny. Well, fantastic. Good. That means you're active enough to.
It's not my podcast.
I'm not lording over you. I let you voice your opinion. Well. Anyway, everybody, I appreciate you. Those who watched, thank you for watching to this point, and you guys have a great rest of your weekend. Be blessed. Sayonara.